Hello everyone, I'm John Ramdeen and this is Fight News Now Extra. One of the participants in the main event of UFC 158 did not show up to the open workouts. Freddie Roach weighs in on who is a better boxer between GSP and Nick Diaz. Aries re-aggravates an injury, and UFC 162 features a battle between the zombie and the bully. Those are your headlines. Now let's get to the news. Nick Diaz was in typical form on Wednesday, missing the scheduled UFC 158 open workouts. UFC President Dana White, who learned of the news while on the Jim Rome show, was obviously not happy with the Stockton native and stated that if he were to win the title, that they would have to sit down and talk about how to move forward with the situation. White also stated that he would be upset if the former Strikeforce champion were to miss Thursday's pre-fight press conference. Cesar Gracie, Diaz's coach, came to his defense, telling the media that the 7-hour flight and the weight cut were valid reasons not to attend the event. Famed boxing coach Freddie Roach believes that George St-Pierre is a better pugilist than his UFC 158 rival. The 52-year-old told Gracie Mag that Diaz throws arm punches and it won't be hard for GSP to make the right adjustments. The Wildcard Gym owner feels that the French-Canadian is more than ready to counter Diaz's southpaw striking on Saturday night. Top-rated UFC welterweight Rory MacDonald will be sidelined further as he re-aggravated his neck injury. The 23-year-old was preparing for a rematch with Carlos Condit when he suffered the injury and was forced to withdraw from his UFC 158 matchup. In for MacDonald is the Texan Johnny Hendricks. No word on when we can expect the explosive Canadian back in action. Two top featherweights meet at UFC 162 when Ricardo Lamas takes on the Korean zombie Chan Sung-jung. The event will take place on July 6th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, and will feature Anderson Silva taking on Chris Weidman for the middleweight world title. It will be the first fight in over a year for the South Korean, while Lamas is currently riding a 4-fight winning streak and is coming off an impressive second-round stoppage over the top-ranked Eric Koch. Joining me now, Mr. Robin Black. And Robin, this is what we've come to expect from Nick Diaz, just disobeying the rules anytime you put it in front of him, and he misses the open workouts on Wednesday, doing what he normally does. Of course, Dana White says that he's ticked off, but Cesar Gracie says, well, Dana White says that he was exempt from that, dealing with the weight cut and the flight and so on and so forth. Is it BS, or is there some validity to it?
I'm sure it's BS. I mean, on one hand, yeah, you fly 7 hours and you have to do a weight cut. That's brutal. And you know who else has to do that? 14 guys on the card have to do that. Now, yes, you are in the main event, and the main event fighters, generally you have to give a little leeway. I think if this was somebody else, someone other than Diaz, and his coach called up and said, you know what, my guy is feeling really worn out. We want him to perform great on Saturday night. Can he bail out on the open workout? In many cases, I think they might say yes. It's just Nick Diaz does what Nick Diaz does, and that's why we love him.
I know there's a lot of speculation about what happens if Nick Diaz doesn't show up on Saturday night for the fight. We've seen that during this entire process, he's been freaked out. He missed his opportunity the first time. Will he show up to fight? One thing we know about Nick Diaz is he likes to fight, and he is going to show up on Saturday night. Even George St-Pierre expects him to be there.
Yeah, and Nick Diaz is showing up. I mean, he's not afraid of anything. He has that natural anticipation of fighting that all humans are supposed to have, that nervousness. But this is what he was born for. I mean, this man was built exclusively for that. Clearly, you know, managing your money and running businesses and all this other stuff is of no interest to him. This guy wants to go fight people. But, you know, you just said we know he likes to show up. We know he will fight. And we do know he will fight. But he has missed a grappling match, a big, high-profile grappling match that he didn't show for.
Now, the problem is if all the ducks aren't in a row for Nick Diaz, he's not getting involved. And this process of being, you know, a title challenger, of course, he's gone through it before. He was a WEC champion. He was a Strikeforce champion. So he knows everything that's involved in being in a title fight, but he just didn't understand the magnitude of being in a title fight in the UFC. There's just so many media obligations, stuff that he's not into, and you can understand why. Even George St-Pierre says, yeah, I can understand why Nick Diaz doesn't want to get himself involved in this stuff. And you have to look at, from Nick's point of view, George is the good guy. He's the superhero. People love George. Yeah. Nick Diaz in his own hometown had people saying, we want George to kick your ass. And of course, it's already a very nerve-wracking time getting ready for Saturday night. But, you know, Nick Diaz, I don't know if I think it adds to the intrigue of the match that this guy will not conform to the UFC rules, but we know that he's going to deliver on Saturday. And you and I were talking about it. What happens if this guy pulls out the upset and becomes the champion, is he going to grasp the media and start doing the things that he hasn't done? I don't think so.
No, man. Hey, listen, we're all big GSP fans. We're Canadian. It's natural. It's in our DNA. But wouldn't it be cool if Nick Diaz can win this fight? And Nick Diaz can win this fight. He's not good at doing interviews. He's not good at taking pictures. He's not good at showing up for stuff. He's good at fighting. This guy's good at punching you in the face 600 or 700 times in 25 minutes. He's good at jiu-jitsu. He's good at this. He could win this fight. It's a fascinating fight. You know, to be honest, don't we all get a little bit tired of all of these guys speaking like, you know, high school and college athletes? They're also media trained. They all say the right stuff. I'm not looking past my opponent. Cliche after cliche. Nick Diaz is an anti-hero. He's the real thing. Man, if you don't like Nick Diaz, you don't like fighting. You don't like reality.
The problem, you say that Nick Diaz isn't good at talking, but people are intrigued when this guy opens his mouth because there is no censor button. This guy is completely unfiltered, and you mentioned it. It is so refreshing to see a guy just speak what's on his mind, opposed to, you know, maybe George St-Pierre, who has the same answer for really the same 10 questions that come his way.
Hey, man, everybody does it. You put a camera in front of a regular person and you say, how are the Toronto Maple Leafs going to do? And they go, well, you know, if they put pucks on the net, you know, you get a lot of opportunities, you know, got a, you know, no eye in team and all this nonsense. Everyone does it. Nick Diaz doesn't do it. Isn't this refreshing? Don't we love it? I love it.
I love it, too. And more from Fight News Now Extra when we return.